Knightline is brought to you by the Dever Team, your source for New Smyrna Beach real estate and everything else New Smyrna Beach. Go to www.thedeverteam.com and call UCF alumni Travis Dever for all your New Smyrna Beach needs. 386-690-1636. That's 386-690-1636.
Welcome to UCF Knightline, your source for UCF sports and former player information.
Hello, Night Nation. This is Andrew Phegley coming to you from the 1148 studios, and this is Knightline 131. Joining me, as always, in studio is
Trace Trylko. Hello, everyone.
All right, we got a lot to talk about.
No lie, UCF moves to 10-0 after beating Temple 45-19. Big defensive showing. Nick Patty helps us break it down. Plus, Victor Tan of New Day Review joins us to talk about those 3-0 UCF men's basketball nights. We're answering your questions during Ask Knightline, and oh yeah, in case you didn't know, it's Beat the Cows week.
Absolutely. Excited about that. Very, very excited.
But first,
I tell you, don't get no respect at all.
Can't get no respect, the late comedian Rodney Dangerfield would say. Maybe, just maybe, UCF is being shown a little bit of respect. The new poll's out Sunday, still 12th in the coaches poll, but 13th in the AP poll. We'll find out Tuesday if UCF moves up in the college football playoff rankings. The Knights climbed to 15th last week, so that's a little bit. What continues moving up, though, is the number of people listening to Knightline Postgame Live. A big thank you to all of you that called and stopped by Burger U and listened to Knightline Postgame Live on YouTube.
I listened back to it today when I was driving around, and every week, new people calling in from all over the state, locally, all over the country. It's great to hear Night Nation.
I want to say to the people that listen but don't call. You know, I mean, there's no reason to be scared to call. Everybody wants to hear what you have to say. That's why we do this. There's nothing to be scared of. So call us.
Boy, this should be a charged show on Friday.
Either way.
Following the rivalry game. It's elation, winning the East, hosting the AAC title
despair.
Game, or
but I don't
step away from the ledge.
Yeah, I think we're going to be okay. I'm really looking forward to this game. I think that this is one of the most anticipated since I've been around UCF. For me, this is the most anticipated game. And I know that there's been a lot of discussion about that, coming up this week. There's lots of discussion going on about a lot of things.
Posted a poll on Twitter, getting a lot of reaction. I asked, is this the biggest home game in the history of UCF's on-campus stadium? 76% say this Friday's game with the Cows is going to be the most anticipated game.
That's a lot, because
19% first game ever versus Texas.
Right. That's a lot of people that have been around probably for a long time, because if you're listening to this show, number one, you're an avid fan. Number two, we've got a lot of people, like I said, that have been around this program a lot longer than I have even. So
I think it's in the way in which you word the question. Most consequential home game?
Yeah.
It's this Friday.
Yeah.
You got to remember, though, being out at the Citrus Bowl, that dream of an on-campus stadium, to be standing in it, screaming your lungs out, Texas on the field.
Right.
Whew, that was dream come true. I mean, that was huge. So, biggest game, and that was the question. Biggest home game in the history? It's just subjective, right?
Yeah,
how you look at it.
I think that... So, the one that I really have to look back on is... And this isn't even in that conversation, but that game against South Carolina is the only... national ABC
2%
noon game.
2% of people voted for that.
Right. But that's the one that I have to compare it to, as far as, and there's other ones.
That was a big deal.
We talked about this on Postgame Live as well, a little bit, with a couple callers. We spoke of this, and what was the biggest game that you liked or were at, or the one that you liked the most, or whatever. And I mentioned the Boston College game as well.
Great game.
Was a huge deal. That was sold out. It was absolutely packed.
Red bandana.
There was a lot of emotion.
Yeah.
all kinds of stuff. There's going to be a lot of emotion in this one, too. It's senior day. Anytime it's senior day. And we've got some players that are...
There's so many to name, but when I was looking through the roster, I wrote down just some of them. Shaquem, right? I know how you feel about... Again, if you haven't read the SI article, I mean, just a tremendous
if I say too much
article.
about this, I will be moved to tears because personally, for me, it will never be the same without the Griffins.
How about this
Period.
quote in the SI article? Next year, Shaquem plans on joining Shaquille, a Seahawk rookie in the NFL. Quote, instead of me just walking through the door, Shaquem says, I just knocked the whole door down. And fitting that article comes out this week, and he showed up
Absolutely.
in Philly, didn't he? But a lot of other seniors. I mean, again, so many to name. Aaron Evans, Shaquan Burkett, Rory Coleman, who made so many headlines, most recently with Veterans Day. Jemias Pittman, Jordan Franks, Jordan Akins, the list goes on. Get into the stadium early, stand and cheer. Appreciate those guys
in
that
a way,
have been a part of this special season and their careers here at UCF.
And in a way, it's an end of an era because these, I believe... No? Got a couple more?
Yeah. Well, Frost is in his second year, so he's had 2 recruiting classes. So these are some guys from...
these are the last players of that Fiesta Bowl team is where I was going with it. Not the last George O'Leary players, but the last Fiesta Bowl team guys. So...
Emotional.
Definitely emotional.
And we hope that it's not the last time we see them at the home stadium because a win puts you into that AAC title game. So I hope it's officially senior day and we get to see the seniors again.
Believe it or not, I'm a very sentimental guy. I've got tears in my eyes even thinking about it. You can hear it in my voice.
Tears of joy seeing Shaquem and the rest of the Knights, though, against Temple. A little bit of concern. I know you weren't particularly concerned, but, it has that trap game feel to it. And, boy, the defense came up big. 5 turnovers. Mackenzie Milton, 4 touchdowns through the air, 1 on the ground. Just another day at the office.
I was a tad bit concerned with it being the trap game thing. Anytime that you've got this much on the line and you go play a game away in the coldest weather you've probably played in, and, with everything that is surrounding this program.
What's that?
Well,
how about as we
got all
record,
kinds of stuff.
Twitter ablaze this Sunday night with rumors that Chip Kelly has inked a deal with the University of Florida. No official confirmation of that, but Jim Mora terminated at UCLA. We know the other vacancies. We know those Cornhusker fans showing up at away games now in Philly with signage.
That's getting a little ridiculous.
Or the Twitter rumor.
Yeah.
Everybody has a source, right? I mean, crying out loud. We're into what day now of the Frost baby, and we still don't know the name of the baby.
Well,
this is a guy that keeps things close to the vest.
I don't have a problem with that. I like that as a matter of fact. I got to see
that baby in a UCF onesie. That's what I want to see.
I don't have a problem with that. I don't have a problem with the baby thing. If he wants to keep that private, there's no reason.
But it speaks to him, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And there's no reason we need to know the name of that baby. It's not our relative. We as fans and community really have nothing to do with that.
I'll never
baby.
hear the end of it if it's named Andrew.
I hope it is. I hope he has a distant cousin or something or an uncle that he loved.
We'll never hear the end of it.
Anyway. There's a lot going on here. There's a lot.
And it builds up the weight of it, right? The weight of it. You're climbing in the polls slowly. Yeah. You're undefeated. Yeah. You've got this big Black Friday clash. You've got Twitter rumors galore that Frost has inked deals everywhere, right?
Yeah.
A lot going on.
And then there's stuff that started to come out a little bit closer to the UCF vest as well as to what's being done. It's reported that they're working on a new contract, and there has been a contract out for quite a while.
I think you can't read too much into that.
Yeah, but the money that is involved in that contract, we all know with this UCF Football Excellence Fund thing, they're talking $5 million.
That's big-time dollars right there.
That's more money, or on par with programs such as Georgia Tech, Nebraska, Oregon, Colorado, Maryland, Missouri, North Carolina, Oklahoma, and ahead of Virginia Tech, Wisconsin, South Carolina, among others.
Kansas.
Yes.
Kansas probably not paying their coach.
So when you get into that stuff, that's awesome. I love it. I love that UCF wants to do their part as far as that whole deal goes. I love that. Do whatever it takes. Pay the guy. If that's what it's about. I don't think that's what it's about. But if that is what it's about, pay the guy to stay here. You know? I don't know. I mean,
he's being asked about it, right? He's being forced to deny it now, you know?
Here's a clip from the press conference the other day that somebody asked him about that and asked him a couple things about that.
I know you're tired of being asked this, but there was a report that came out the other night about agreeing that you agreed to terms with Nebraska. Is there anything that you would want to say to reassure UCF fans?
Yeah, that's just totally false. I haven't paid any attention to all these whirlwind rumors and everything, and I'm not gonna. I got an unbelievable team, and I'm gonna coach them, and I can promise you that no decisions been made about anything.
What's it like when you see there was fans hanging over the tunnel, Nebraska fans that were waving those signs in front of all the players? What does that do to a team when you see stuff like that?
I don't know. It doesn't do anything to me. Listen, I talked to Coach Osborne once back in Nebraska, and he was at the Wailing Wall in Israel and had to sign an autograph with a yarmulke on for a Nebraska fan. That's just the way those people are. So it doesn't surprise me that they show up, and that's awesome. But I'm here to coach our football team, and we got a special football team.
Sounds to me that he is focused 110% on what's going on here and not on any of the rest of the stuff.
That's the way those people are.
Those
in Nebraska.
People. Yep.
Doesn't sound warm and fuzzy, does it?
Does not at all.
No.
Does not at all. I'm good with that. I mean, I'm glad, as much as Night Nation likes to pick on a certain reporter, I am glad that question was asked. I am glad. It needs to be asked in a way, and I like to hear these things from Scott Frost, denying things, and because we haven't heard anything.
Except you can trot out all sorts of coaches who stood before the mic.
Right.
Nick Saban.
I know.
And deny they were going anywhere. And do I think he's particularly worried about it today? He's got no reason to be worried about it today. He's got a game to play Friday. That is where his focus is. And we'll see how that game turns out, possibly the week after in an AAC title game. He's got plenty of time to think about it.
I've said this before. I do not think Scott Frost is that kind of guy. Now, I could be wrong, but I am normally, I am a very, very good judge of character. Normally. It's well known about me. And I have a feeling that he is a guy that is on the up and up and says what he means personally. I think it, and I think he stays here. I don't think that any of this goes any farther, really. I'm sure there's going to be a lot more, so it will go farther as that, but I just have a feeling. And if I'm wrong, I will be the first one to admit that I was wrong. I am wrong every once in a while on my gut feeling about people.
We've all changed jobs, and I can't imagine Scott Frost can be here forever. So when's the appropriate time to go? We don't get to decide that, do we?
Nope.
He gets to decide that with his family.
Absolutely. All right, so here's what Scott Frost had to say after the game about how he felt game against Temple went.
Just proud of our guys. I was a little bit worried about this game, being the game before the game, being in the cold, being our ninth straight week playing a football game. A lot of factors kind of pointed them playing better, a lot better recently. A lot of factors pointed to this one potentially being a tough one, and our guys responded. I'm thrilled. We talked about it last night, and we usually don't talk about big picture things like that, but we talked about how hard it is to get to 10-0. Not very many people do it, and just a handful of teams maybe every year out of 129 teams in the country that ever have a chance to do it. I put that in front of them last night, and it's hard. It's hard to win football games. It's hard to win that many in a row, and what these guys have done this year is amazing.
Did we mention that the Knights are 10-0?
Yes, we did.
Okay.
One of four teams unbeaten that remain: UCF, Alabama, Miami, and Wisconsin.
What names those are to be in the same words as?
Scott Frost, one of 16 finalists for the George Munger Coach of the Year award. Now we'll see who gets these awards, but UCF is every week. We share with you Mackenzie Milton named to the short list for the Walter Camp Player of the Year award. Every week we talk about all these
why
lists.
Isn't he on that Heisman list yet?
Yeah.
Baker Mayfield should be off of it, and he should be on it. Anyway.
Your guy started it.
Whatever.
Your Kansas guys refuse to shake hands.
That's because they refuse to shake hands with a guy like Baker Mayfield. Everybody knows who he is.
They should have shook his hand.
That's a strong rivalry there that's gone on for a long time, even though we've been on the bad part of that for a long time. Anyway, did you notice that Scott Frost said something there in the beginning of that? He said it was the game before the game.
Mm-hmm.
So there's obviously focus on next week.
What game is that? Black Friday.
Yeah.
Cows come to town.
Yeah.
Huge. How long does it take for them to mosey from Tampa down I-4?
Do they fly?
They probably bus, right?
I'm sure.
As you'd make that drive, there's all sorts of cows on the side of the road.
Yeah. Okay. So, all right. So let's get on with some of these clips. One of the things that's been talked about a lot was that catch it wasn't the catch. It wasn't another Temple the catch.
It was a heck of a catch.
It was very, very close to the catch, though.
It was close.
There's always something that happens up here in Temple.
Remember the game last year when UCF loses on the last play of the game with not quite spectacular, but still a catch.
Right, yeah. So Traquan Smith made this incredible catch on the sideline, keeping a foot in. And let's hear what Scott. There's all kinds of people commenting on this, but let's hear what Scott Frost had to say about it first.
Yeah, I went up to him on the sideline and just said, because that's one of the best ones I've seen. I think he got pushed out, came back in. I don't know how he caught that and kept his foot in, but he's been making special plays for us all year.
That's funny right there, I think. I mean, I think that's cool that Scott Frost, would do that and then talk about it in the press conference when the question's asked, to say that. And I think he's having fun. I think the team's having fun. We talk a lot about that.
It's all over social media. And, of course, as Night Nation was watching that game all over the country, they were doing a lot of cutaway shots of our players having fun. This starting with punter Mac Loudermilk a few weeks back with his baseball swing and his golf swing. And now you got, all sorts of shenanigans going on the sideline, the shotgun into the beers.
I guess somebody maybe needs to ask Scott Frost what he thinks of that, maybe in the post game or something. I don't know. We haven't heard too much about that, but we talk about that with our guests coming up later.
And I'll tell you what, we've been talking about it between these. We do these interviews and then we put it all together. We really get into this with Nick Patty on this show. And a long interview, a good interview with Kyle Israel that will drop midweek, really talking about rivalry games, talking about this Tampa team. There's a lot of hate the Cows this week. By the way, hate the Cows this week, every day.
Every day.
Every day.
Yeah.
What is it, just this week?
Every day. Every day. All right, let's hear what Scott Frost commented on the incredible game that Shaquem Griffin had. Let's hear what he had to say about that.
Just another unbelievable football player, unbelievable teammate, unbelievable leader for us. The kind of guy you want to be around all the time. I haven't seen very many people in my football career that hustle the way he does. And on top of being talented and an awesome person, he works harder than people, and he deserves what he gets.
Love to hear it. He had a great game. That interception was incredible.
More from this Sports Illustrated article. Speaking of his father, Terry put both boys, being Shaquille and Shaquem, through the same football drills when they were 10 years old. When Shaquille learned to catch in the backyard, so did Shaquem. Terry threw just as hard to Shaquem as he did to Shaquille. Quote, he didn't want me to make any excuses for why I couldn't catch the ball, Shaquem says. I took a couple of footballs to the face before I learned to catch. He showed us he could catch.
Yeah.
Huh?
His dad's one of my favorite people in the entire world. I love that guy. All right. Anyway, you're gonna get me emotional here.
I'm gonna find more things to quote from this article.
Oh boy. Well, let's hear what Shaquem had to say about that interception.
It's awesome to get turnovers and stuff, and being able to celebrate with your teammates. And I remember when Neville Clark had dropped the first one, I told him during halftime, I said, if that was me, I would have caught that. And it's crazy because the next half I ended up getting that same exact play and ended up catching it. And I went to the side like, I told you so. I told you I'd catch it. So it's kind of awesome when you be able to kind of sort of own competition before we even start the second half. And, I'm grateful just to have teammates be able to put pressure on the quarterback, make sure it's a hot throw, and make sure it's a 50-50 ball for me, and, go to battle for it.
That's funny right there. I told him he should have caught that. And I went out there and caught it.
Coach Frost quoted in this article, there's not a player I've coached who practices harder than he does.
Absolutely.
Remember, we're not too far removed from him moving into the Wayne Dench building. Remember during fall camp?
I know.
Which seems like so long ago, it's worth bringing up again.
And he's had a difficult year this year because he's been the target so much of all these teams. I've been trying to explain, people have asked, why is he not having a good year? And, I mean, I guess at certain times these are people that don't know about football maybe as much as we do sometimes, and it's interesting sometimes trying to answer their questions. And that's why I like Ask Knightline, because we get genuine questions and we can give answers.
Yeah, and we've got most of those questions I threw to Nick and to Kyle because a lot of them are about how does UCF contain Quentin Flowers this week and concerns about that. And let me throw another quote. I'm bound and determined to make you cry. Shaquem, a lot of people in our generation like to make excuses about little things that really don't hinder them from doing what they want to do, he says. I feel like my purpose is to get away from people making excuses. That's why Shaquem declined a disabled parking permit, even though he's eligible for one. Quote, it's not a deformity unless you make it one, he says. You're not disabled unless you say, I'm disabled. That guy, they all deserve praise and cheers. Names maybe we don't know, we don't see. Practice squad guys, But the applause will be very strong for one Shaquem Griffin Friday during Senior Day.
I cannot wait to see him play in the NFL.
Mission accomplished.
I
got you there.
I just, I've spent a lot of time around the family, and I've spent a lot of time around all of them, and it's just, I'm an emotional guy. I apologize, but they're like my family now after spending the last 5 years with them.
All right, we got games to play.
I know.
All right, we got games to play.
I feel stupid for getting emotional here, but it is. It's one of those things. Yeah, I know you're trying really hard. All right, let's hear what Shaquem had to say about this upcoming rivalry game against the Cows.
I mean, the emotion's going to be high, the thought's going to be even higher, and when you got a good team and you got two good teams going for one goal, and that's the championship, it's you never know what's going to happen. And our whole thing is to make sure that we just doing what we're already been doing to get here, and I think we'll be just fine.
Another person that was asked about what it's going to be like is one Mackenzie Milton.
Warren I-4, it's a rivalry game, so you kind of look forward to that one all year, all off season. And we know they're a great team. They're good on both sides of the ball, very athletic, kind of similar to us in all honesty. So it's going to be a tough battle, but we look forward to it in the bounce house.
We're so focused on this game coming up on Friday.
What game?
USF.
Oh, you said it.
The Cows.
You said it.
I did say it.
Incredible restraint, by the way, during our interview with the Insider. We'll drop that later in the week as well.
We had a little bit of fun.
A little snark. I mean, it was all professional. Yeah. We asked normal questions, getting to know their team more.
Right.
It was hard.
Did have a little bit of fun. I tried. I threw a little, what was the guy on Twitter asking? Oh, no, it was last week. We had the question.
Oh, we should have asked the Insider that.
What do you do to the guy? Do you kick him, do you punch him in the nuts or kick him in the nuts?
We should have asked him that.
Yeah.
He would have been thrown by that.
Yeah. Anyway, so I tried to get a little nut punch in there, but it was a soft one. I tried, though. Anyway, so we're so focused on this that I had these clips to play about Trylko. We mentioned him earlier in his catch, and I never even let him explain the catch. So let's hear that real quick.
I had a go route, and then next thing you know, I see Mackenzie scrambling. And whenever he scrambles, I know it's always an opportunity that he's going to get the ball downfield. So, I scramble to the sideline, and the guy bumped me out of bounds. And I try to come back in, and then I know Mackenzie throw it my way, and I try my best to catch it, and I end up catching it. And just so happened I had a foot down in ground and in bounds.
And then the great part is that I have what Mackenzie had to say about the catch, too, because he talks about Mackenzie, and then Mackenzie's going to talk about him.
In all honesty, there's not a lot of guys in the country, if any guys in the country, that can make that grab. He's probably maybe a top 5 receiver in the country, in my opinion, and he's been making plays like that all year.
It's good to see a wide receiver and a quarterback have a little, I wouldn't call it a bromance, but it's good for them.
Connection.
It's good for them to
Chemistry.
have a connection and chemistry, yes. It may be called a bromance, but they do talk about each other quite a bit.
Remind me to see if I want to ask Mackenzie that in the postgame.
Do you have a bromance with Traquan Smith?
Get booed out of the postgame press conference.
That's funny stuff right there. Anyway, that's it for the clips. That's all we'll do. We're gonna move on.
Well, before you do, I gotta mention more of this article. It talks a lot about the work he's doing with the limitless solutions, which we've talked about before. Listen to this quote. If I keep doing what I'm doing, it's going to create a better future for someone else. It just goes on and on. Maybe I can help this kid who can help another kid who can help 1,000 kids later. Wow. And article ends with, and I think about this game Friday and what lies ahead for these Knights. I've been ready since I was a kid, Shaquem says. I'm waiting for somebody to say, you can't do it. And that Tampa team's going to try and say, UCF can't walk out of that stadium at home on Friday with a win. And he and the rest of the Knights are going to have none of that.
Well, we heard last week about how someone in the last game, I don't even remember who it was against, to be honest with you.
UConn.
Oh,
screamed at him.
The guy screamed at him that he couldn't do something, and you saw what happened.
Yeah, you saw
He's been told that his entire life, and he's only let that stuff, make him stronger. I live by, and I tell my stepdaughter and all kinds of stuff, when she's having a bad day, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. I live my life by that, and I respect that tremendously from him.
I'll find more quotes during our break.
Seriously,
all right.
Nobody wants to hear this.
All right. Bowl projection alert. SB Nation, UCF and Penn State in the Peach. CBSSports.com. Auburn versus UCF in the Peach. Of course, you got to win Friday. That's what's next.
I would just love to get a hold of any of those teams and show America, show ESPN, show the people that vote on that poll just what we're made of, because I think that this team could play with any of those teams and beat them on any given day, personally. My personal opinion. I'm emotional tonight.
Yeah, we're going to get more into this with Nick in just a minute. UCF kicked off renewals for season tickets for the 2018 season and officially revealed the home and away opponents. We asked you on Twitter, are you following us, by the way, at UCF_Knightline, which games you're most looking forward to? Did you vote?
I did not.
All right, for the home schedule. 49% said Pittsburgh because of its being in the ACC. 35% Navy, 14% Florida Atlantic, and 2% SMU. And there's only 4 spots on that poll, so I couldn't put Cincinnati, South Carolina State, and Temple. South Carolina State's back on the schedule. Scheduling is a challenge.
It is.
And there's been a lot of talk about how does UCF get more respect scheduling opponents. Now, opponents may not want to play UCF. I just wish they could schedule a Bethune-Cookman or a Florida A&M.
Right.
No disrespect to South Carolina State, and they've brought a nice group of people. But to see those, Daytona Beach, how far away is it? Not very far.
Or even Stetson.
Oh, yeah, Stetson.
Stetson's there. They've got a new football program. That would give them exposure. It would give them a little bit of money because, we're paying those guys to come and play us.
So the road schedule, 58% say North Carolina. Isn't that the one that we have circled
That
on?
is the game that I am looking forward to the most out of the entire
travel game,
yes,
right?
Out of the entire season, that is the game that I'm looking forward to the most because we will be there. And I've always wanted to see Chapel Hill. I've never been up there. I'm really, really looking forward to it. I know that that's a beautiful area.
58% said that game. 24% said the Cows over in Tampa. But what's nice about that is it's not too far away, so it's kind of like an extra home game. Right?
We'll go to that one, too.
14% Memphis and 4% UConn or East Carolina. So those are your opponents in 2018. Well, I mentioned Temple earlier. We're going to talk Owls and Cows. Nick Patty is next.
Hey, this is Travis Dever, Kai's Real Estate, the Dever team, New Smyrna Beach. Your source for real estate and everything else, New Smyrna Beach. Proud sponsor of Knightline and Knightline Postgame Live. Call me anytime at 386-690-1636. That's 386-690-1636. Let me show you my hometown, New Smyrna Beach, UCF's favorite beach. Go Knights and charge on.
Welcome to Inside the Red Zone with Nick, the Wild Knight Patty.
All eyes are on Black Friday, the heated rivalry game, war on I-4 points, and a trophy up for grabs, but it means so much more than that. Let's get into it with former Knights quarterback Nick Patty, who is in the Red Zone. Nick, thanks for joining us on Knightline.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks for having me.
Before we jump into this preview of the Friday clash with the Cows, what did you like, so much to like, from the Temple game?
Yeah, I mean, you said it. There's so much to like. You watch the team out there. I mean, I think the main thing that popped out to me throughout the entire game, and really it has all season, but it's really kind of coming to a head, is just how much sort of passion they're playing with, how together they are. I think a lot of people are just talking about kind of the swag that we have right now. You see all the celebrations and just kind of how excited everybody is. That stood out to me in a big way. I know that goes a long way when you're trying to do something like they are this year with trying to kind of push into that New Year's Six game. And but on the field, the 5 defensive turnovers is just huge. Anytime that happens, statistically, when you have that amount of turnovers and you're creating points on the defense side of the ball, I know we've talked about it before, your chances of winning go up just astronomically. And anytime you can kind of create that kind of havoc like we are on defense, it's huge. And the consistent play from McKenzie has just been awesome as well. And we've talked about it throughout this season. If we can consistently, keep up the things that have, made us successful, and that's been playing well on defense, creating points, and McKenzie being consistent and making good decisions, and that continues to happen. So that was good we saw this weekend.
Let's shift over to the game. A lot of focus is going to be on the Cows quarterback, Quentin Flowers, and deservedly so. But his last outing, 11 of 28 for 142 yards, 2 touchdowns and interception against Tulsa, just 2 weeks removed from 516 all-purpose yards against the same UConn team that UCF just faced. Talk more about what you think UCF has to do to contain him, disrupt him, and not let him beat the Knights.
Yeah, I think anytime you have a quarterback that can create that kind of creativity and havoc, is you got to show him a lot of different looks. I think that's one thing we do on defense that will kind of confuse him, if you will, and show him some different looks, some different blitz packages, maybe a few different defensive fronts, all while trying to contain what he can do. And he's really good at getting outside of the pocket. He's really good at creating offense in many different ways, whether it be with his arms, his legs. They're good in the running game, a lot of different RPOs and options, et cetera. One thing on the defensive side that I think we need to do, again, is just give him multiple looks, whether that be, secondary blitzes, whether that be mixing up our coverage a little bit more, whether it be some more like linebacker dogs, if you will, or whether it be, dropping 8 and just rushing 3 guys and just making him make a decision on where he needs to go with the ball in a smart way. And any time that we can just kind of create some confusion for him so that he has to be creative, that he has to create offense in different ways than just how the offense is built, I think you can be successful. One thing I think we have going for us is every day we see a quarterback like him and McKenzie who runs around a lot and creates a lot of offense. He improvises is one thing Flowers does, and the more we can make him improvise, some people say, well, you don't want him to improvise because that's when he's so good. Well, I don't know many people that you don't want to try to make improvise as much as they can, because that's just not how offenses are built. They're not built on improvisation. It helps a ton. And that stuff is great, but the more we can make him do that, the more we could probably force him into making some suspect decisions.
I'm going to go back to the game that we just played on Saturday. What do you think about the fun that these guys are having on the sideline and on the field and everything else? It just looks like they're having a ton of fun out there, and I think that has really, really contributed to the success this season.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Like I said earlier, that's just one thing that stood out to me all week this week. I think that, as they're televising games, they're starting to sort of highlight that a little more, which I think is great. But all year you can tell just how excited everyone's getting and the celebrations, and just the style of play we're having. I just think that goes such a long way. And I got to tell you, with being on a team that was 0-12 a few years ago and not having any excitement or any creativity, any celebrations, none of the above, really just being on a deflated team. And a lot of those guys are still involved that were young on that team. To see the polar opposite, I think you kind of see, how long that goes and how much that does help this squad. So I couldn't be happier about it, and just seeing how much they're enjoying playing, they're enjoying each other. I think that has been a huge asset for us, and I'm glad that Coach Frost is letting them do it. He's letting them take the handcuffs off a little bit. The guys on the sideline, those guys that are creating the celebrations, doing the running of the bulls, and they're doing the hula lines and stuff like that. I mean, I just think that is so cool, and I hope they can keep that excitement up, especially too when you get into some of these games that are going to be battles. I think that kind of stuff lights a fire for the team, and I hope they keep it up.
So do you think that that's okay for them to do that on the sideline? I mean, we were talking a little bit with Kyle earlier about that, and, certain coaches that were here before, a certain coach would never have had any of that, would never have ever let anything like that happen on the sideline. I mean, it's a different time now, I guess, because, like the NFL has relaxed their policies on celebrations in the end zone and all that stuff, and they're letting people be creative and have a good time a little bit more. And now you're seeing that, especially from the Knights on the sideline. Are you okay with that? Do you think that there's a place for that in football?
I absolutely think there's a place for it. I think there's a time and a place where it's okay and acceptable. I think there's a time and a place where it may be overdone a bit. And as far as the Knights go and what they've kind of got going on right now, I think that group of guys that's kind of implementing that for us and is doing it over there, there's going to be a time where it's probably not the right place for it. Maybe it's a different point in the game, or it's not as warranted. But I think right now that creates such an energy for the team, and that creates an energy, it creates an excitement. And I think that done tastefully, where it's really just a celebration or an excitement. It's not anything directed towards anyone. It's not unsportsmanlike in any way. Done tastefully, I think there's a place for it, no doubt about it. And I think too that you got to trust those coaches a little bit and what they're doing and the culture they're trying to create, because I trust them in the fact that if they did see it cross the line, they did see it, that it didn't have a place or, wasn't something that needed to be going on, that they'd step in and put an end to it. And I know that Coach Frost and those guys, though they may seem a little more lax, they don't overlook that stuff. And so I think if they did see it become a distraction, if they did see it become a problem, that they'd put their foot down. But to answer you directly, yeah, I do think there's a place for it as long as it stays kind of between the lines, if you will.
Speaking of that, take us back a year to the game in Tampa.
Sure.
The Cows capitalize on turnovers to beat UCF. They're up by 10 with the clock ticking down, and they score again. I know it's a rivalry, but it's a moment that Coach Frost was not particularly pleased about. What's your recollections of that game, that experience, the way Coach Frost spoke to the team? Take us back to that moment.
Yeah, well, I have some pretty strong feelings about that game personally, and the people on the other side that were pulling some triggers. And I think we all felt a certain way about that. It was a disappointing loss for us. After a really exciting season and kind of a turnaround, if you will, to have that game, and it was a tough loss for us. You never want to lose a rivalry, but you never want to lose the last game of the year. The way that happened at the end of the game there, and that last score, it was sort of a Bush League score there at the end. It was sort of one of those things that, rivalry or not, I think one of the things that makes rivalries a pretty special week is that whether everyone hates their rival, right? Auburn hates Alabama, UCF hates USF, Florida hates Florida State. but everyone respects their rival, and I think that's what makes them a rival, is that you have that respect for them. And that was just a little disrespectful, if you will. Listen, I'm from the school of, it's your job to stop the offense. It's the defense's job to stop the offense, no matter what the score is, no matter what time in the game. But that one there, that was a tough one to take, and I know Coach Frost felt similar. After that game, he was in no way, shape, or form was he happy or okay with that happening. And he felt pretty strongly about the way that was handled by those guys. And I know that will not be forgotten. I have no doubt about it. They'll have plenty of motivation this week to rectify that, and it's probably well justified. And I hope I can tell you on my end, just personally, that I hope that does get rectified. And I have no doubt about it that Coach Frost will do everything he can for the players, past and present, to right that wrong.
As a player in this league, when you're facing a UConn or a Tulsa, there may not be too many guys on the other side that you might know of, have played against, or played with when you were, growing up in the area. But with this Tampa team, nearly every single player on their roster hails from Florida. Talk a little bit more about what rivalry week means. It's more than winning the game. There's emotions and passions that go in when they come out of that locker room and they're ready to hit the guy on the other side.
Yeah, I mean, nothing as a player, especially in a rivalry game, nothing kind of fires you up more than knowing those guys. I mean, it's just like kind of high school football, if you will. You don't go to school with many guys, but everyone sort of in that town knows everybody. And, you get that little extra motivation, get that little extra fire for Friday night. When you play on rivalry games with that thin state, you know those guys that you played against in high school, you played those 7-on-7s with, you went to camps with around college camps in high school, and you know all these guys. It is a special week. It's a special time to be able to do that. And you get a little more fire in your belly. You're a little more excited for the game because it's not just another opponent. Everyone loves every game day, right? Game day is what everyone plays for. But when it's a game day against not only a rival, but a bunch of guys that you know and you're comfortable with, and you want to prove some stuff to, that is a special feat. And everyone knows kind of how that Friday Night Lights feel is when you're playing your crosstown rival. And I think with UCF and USF and Florida State's probably fairly similar. To have that dynamic of knowing a lot of guys on the opposite sideline, it's pretty cool.
So, given the opportunity in this game, since we were talking about how it ended last year, even though Taggart's not over there anymore, would you see Coach Frost doing the same thing? Shoving it back in their face? Would you see him running up the score if given the opportunity?
I don't think so. I think I don't see Coach Frost as a person that would do that, as a coach that would do that, or a man to do that, if you will. And I'm not attacking anybody personally or as a man, if
right.
That's how anyone takes it. But I don't think that Coach Frost would do that. He's got a respect for opponents like a lot of coaches do. He has a respect for anyone that he lines up against, and I think that's one of the reasons he was so upset about that happening. It wasn't because he was embarrassed that they scored one more on us or that we lost first. It was just that he has a strong feeling about how you respect your opponents. He has a strong feeling about how you go about winning. And so with that being said, I don't think, as strongly as he felt about it, and trust me, it was really strong, I don't think that there's any part of him that would say, especially with them having a new staff this year, that would say, no, screw that, we're gonna do the same thing because they disrespected us, we'll disrespect them. I don't think he has that in him. That's one of the things that makes him a special, unique guy, is that he sees his opponent for what they are and respects them, and you gotta love that about a guy.
So that situation was more than just running up the score, because this offense and Oregon and Scott Frost here loves to put 70 points up there if they can. I mean, it's totally a different thing, I guess, when it comes down to that, right? I mean, I don't know if people understand that it's a completely different thing.
I don't think that's like, throwing the ball with 7 minutes to go when you're up by 35, or maybe breaking a 70-yard run and there's just really nothing you could do about it when there's 4 minutes left and you're up by 21. I mean, there's no part of our offense and Coach Frost that says, all right, let's put the pedal to the metal and score. We always want to score as much as we can. One, because we're trying to prove something on a national stage, and that helps, as everybody knows. But two, that's just how this offense is designed. It's designed to score a lot of points, and really there's really nothing in our offense as far as design goes that can slow much down. And so that was different in our mind because they got the ball pretty deep in our own territory and had an opportunity to just kind of nix that game. That in no way, shape, or form was there really an opportunity for us to do much else. And so they had a chance to go about that the right way and didn't. And I do think that's different than some people kind of see our offense.
Right. I just wanted to cover that real quick because I don't feel that.
I agree. I mean, and it's easy for people to perceive. I think it's easy for people to perceive our offense as being that way and for us to kind of be that team. But I would agree. I think kind of what you're getting to is I would agree that it's much different than how our offense is kind of based on that down.
Exactly.
Yeah. So let's talk keys to the game for UCF on offense against this team from Tampa. Just keep doing what you're doing, or what adjustments do they need to make?
It's hard to say anything different. Yeah, it's hard to say anything different. I think one is time of possession because we're not going to want to put the ball in Flowers' hands any more than we have to. One for time of possession, and two, it's a field position battle. I think that showed its head more than ever this past weekend with getting the ball in our territory, having a weapon like Mac Loudermilk at punter, and flipping the field and doing some things on special teams that are really the hidden yards, if you will. And that's a stat that Coach Frost takes pretty seriously, is those hidden yards, those hidden plays, stuff that in games it's not in the stat line a whole lot. It's really not highlighted, but it's the things that make a game flip around. And when you're getting the ball, I think it was 4 or 5 times in our own territory, that makes a game that much easier. And so those are, I think, a few things, other than, keep doing what we're doing, keep putting up 500-plus yards of offense, keep, have our scoring average, I think, is something around 42, 47 points or something. I think time of possession is huge, keeping the ball out of his hands, mixing up our looks on defense, as we talked about earlier, and giving them everything in the book you could possibly throw at them. And then the field position battle is a huge thing for us this week.
Both teams throughout this season have been heavily penalized. What factor do you think in an emotional rivalry game those sorts of things could come back and hurt one or the other team?
Yeah, I think in a big way, if they let it. When you let emotions get involved and you start getting some personal fouls, and those 15-yard penalties, man, those are huge gashes for offenses and defenses. I mean, especially depending on where they have the ball in the field. Get 15 yards tacked on. I mean, that can flip a whole drive, and that can be 7 points in a game. And so if we let that happen, and I sure do hope the Knights don't, because we've had our fair share of penalties, and if you let that stuff start to kind of snowball, it can get to be a bad thing for you. And so those are the types of things this week, especially the conversation we had a second ago of kind of our feelings towards them from last year. Those are the kind of things we can't let come about. We have to let them make those mistakes. We got to let them put themselves in some bad situations, and hopefully that's enough for us. Easier said than done sometimes on the field, and you get emotional and you let your feelings get the best of you. But I think we have a mature enough team, and we've got a team that's been through enough that they'll kind of see this week for what it's worth, and they know those things are unacceptable at times, and hopefully that's enough.
A year ago in Tampa, turnovers were a part of the reason that UCF lost that game, a big part. And they had a game this season against SMU where they turned the ball over but were able to win the game. I reference that because there have been several games here, SMU, Memphis, and now this week, where we say this could be a shootout. This could be a high-scoring game. Even if it does become that, do you see how Tampa there could outscore UCF?
I do. Yeah, I do. And I think that's sort of what I was getting to on my point of time of possession. Given the opportunity for them to have the ball more than we do, and given the opportunity, I mean, anytime someone has the ball, I guess that's a pretty broad statement to say that they may outscore you. But if they have an opportunity to keep us off the field, really then our only chance, which in a positive way has been our defense scoring some points, really our only chance to keep up is if that happens. We create some turnovers and score some points. If they come out firing and he's creating more offense than if Flowers is creating more offense than we can create on defense, then I think they definitely have a chance to outscore us. They're potent offense, and if we don't create some turnovers, if we don't keep them off the field and create those 3 and outs and kind of get them out of a rhythm, then, yeah, there's a chance. Our defense has been awesome, as you guys know. I mean, our defense has been as stingy as it gets at times. There's, one of the things we got to do is limit the penalties and keep them off the field and create some 3 and outs and hopefully some turnovers. Other than that, it's on the offense. They've done their part. The defense has done their part. And all 3 phases at some point in the game, at some point in the season, have won us a game, in my opinion. And so it's this week really just about which one of those wants to step up and win us this game.
Early line on this game is UCF favored by 9.5. You throw that out. You throw the records. You throw everything out. It's a rivalry game. What does your gut tell you? 3:30 Friday in Orlando on the UCF campus. How does this one play out?
Oh man, tough week. Rivalries are tough matchups to call, especially with the line. My early mindset of it is Knights probably by a 13. That's kind of what I have in mind. I think we're on a roll right now. We're playing with some passion and some desire. I like us probably by about 13 points.
Alrighty, that sounds good. That's kind of the consensus, believe it or not, right around there. Yeah. So interesting.
Yeah.
It's going to be.
Hopefully that comes to fruition.
Yeah, it's going to be a heck of a week and a heck of a game, and I can't really think of any game that I've looked forward to this much for quite a while. So, really looking forward to it.
Even when I was on the team, I can't remember one that 4 weeks ahead you were kind of looking forward to till this one. So I'm with you.
I think we've been looking at this one honestly since the very beginning. So.
Yeah.
And here it is. It's finally here. So we got to do everything that we've been doing, and that defense has to be doing it shock and awe like they did last week. And and I think we're in a good shape. Anyway, thank you, Nick, very much for doing this for us, being here this season. It's not over yet, but I really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a ton of fun. Teams obviously helped us have some fun on this podcast, and really enjoyed it. Thank you guys for having me.
Our extensive coverage of Hate the Cows Week continues.
Absolutely.
Pretty good interview with Kyle Israel coming up as well. 5 questions with the Cows Insider. Listen for the snark. UCF men's basketball moved to 3-0 following Saturday's 75-64 win over William & Mary. Center Taco Fall returned after dealing with some hip soreness, only to see guard Terrell Allen leave with some hip soreness. Our guest coming up will give us just the latest on Terrell Allen's situation. On the positive news there, senior A.J. Davis speaks for all of us in Knight Nation when he says the team is glad to have that big man back on the court.
It's great, man. He's one of a kind. It's nothing. It's hard to simulate playing with somebody like him. He's just such a special, special piece to our game in general. For him to be that size and move how he does, and he's really starting to learn the game and how he can affect the game. It's great to have him back in the court and getting healthy.
Next up, the Knights are in the Mouse House tourney. Begins Thanksgiving night at 6. The opponent we may have heard a little bit about lately, Nebraska.
You want me to talk to any of their fans? Make it up for some of those games? No?
No.
I'm referencing
Not
Sports
interested.
Illustrated. I'm not going to read you another quote unless I find another one. Here's from their basketball preview, college basketball preview. One Taco Fall in there.
Good.
A little ink and
Good.
an SI.
As they should.
The most likely candidate to break an extended NCAA tournament drought is Central Florida.
Good.
So getting a little pub.
That was before or after the B.J. Taylor
That was
injury?
before.
This is the deal with that. I think that this team adapts and overcomes. And I think that this team will make it to the tournament. I really do. I have a feeling. We never expected it to happen last year to go to the NIT Final Four. Nobody expected that. Nobody expected a lot of things that have been happening at UCF lately, and I think that one happens even with the injury to B.J. Taylor.
All right, fresh takes on this from Victor Tan of New Day Review. We're answering your questions on Ask Knightline. Stay alert. Keep going on that rowing machine. Every week I'm going to bring up a new exercise device, by the way. Even more Knightline, 30 seconds from now.
You've heard us talk about the great food at our good friend Kyle Israel's restaurant, The Little Greek Fresh Grill. The Little Greek now has franchises available. Please call 407-697-2272. That's 407-697-2272 to see what The Little Greek can do for you. Also check out The Little Greek's newest location at 3131 Daniels Road, Suite 104, Winter Garden, Florida. The Little Greek Fresh Grill. Fresh, flavorful, fabulous.
UCF men's basketball now 3-0. Let's talk about it a little bit more. We welcome back Victor Tan with New Day Review. Victor, thanks for joining us on Knightline again.
Happy to be here.
Well, a little breaking news off the top. When we went into Knightline Postgame Live, I shared coming out of the postgame media session that Terrell Allen was a little banged up from that game. What more have you learned about his status?
Well, I just spoke with one of the communications guys from the men's basketball team, and he told me that Terrell Allen's injury against William & Mary is nothing serious, quote, nothing serious, and he is expected to play against Nebraska. I know he left the game pretty early he tried to block someone and landed on his hip pretty hard just after 6 minutes into the game. So, he's expected to play against Nebraska in the first game of the Advocare Invitational. Hopefully that's a good sign for UCF, without BJ Taylor there. So
it's been a little bit of a mash unit with guys going down seemingly every game. However, a returnee is Taco Fall. Talk about the impact he made during Sunday's win over William & Mary.
Yeah, Taco came off the bench and looked good. He was 5 for 5 from the field. Early on in the game, he had these two kind of bad offensive turnovers where he kind of took a weird hop step after he gathered himself. That was a travel underneath the basket. There's another offensive foul that he had where I guess he's trying to turn baseline or something and kind of elbowed the guy too hard. So that was early in the game. You could see as the game went on, he was a lot more comfortable. Ended up with 13 points in 15 minutes on 100% shooting from the field. What's even more impressive, I think, was his 3 for 4 shooting from the free throw line. Last season, in the 2 seasons combined before this one, he shot just under 50% at 49%. So it's good to see that he's worked on his free throws over the off season. He got 7 rebounds as well, and a block, as usual, as the conference player of the year, defensive player of the year from last year, of course, would do. He looked good. He's going to take some time. I know Coach Dawkins said that he's not in that spot yet where they want him to be. He's still obviously nursing this minor hip injury. And I don't expect him to I don't expect him to start rather, against Nebraska in this first game of the Invitational. Coach said after the game that Chad Brown right now is their starting big, but they're going to go over some film and evaluate and assess before Nebraska. So we'll see what happens. Like I said, he looked good. It was a welcome sight for sure, just among all these myriad of injuries with BJ and Aubrey and almost Terrell, I guess. So good to see him back.
Speaking of the injuries, a couple people really stepped up. A.J. Davis, Dayon Griffin, and DeJesus all really stepped up. What did you see from those guys? What did you think was the best thing from those guys? And what do you see going forward with BJ being out?
Yeah, one of the the first guy that you mentioned there, A.J. Davis, redshirt senior, has been fantastic for the Knights early on this year. I know so far he's had the first 3 games he's had double-digit rebounds, and these past 2 games he's had double-double. He, as usual, just that versatile guy who can do everything you want him to do on the court, can pass, can rebound, can do whatever he wants pretty much. Even more surprising and pleasant to see from a fan's perspective is all these newcomers coming in and scoring and contributing a lot, actually. So I actually made a list sort of who has made the most impact, I think, so far, in kind of this specific order of with Chance McSpadden kind of being that top guy first, then Cesar DeJesus, Dayon Griffin, and then, of course, kind of Terrell Allen there as well. But first to Chance McSpadden, I know Coach has talked a lot about him being not only his primary perimeter defender, with Taco being the inside the paint kind of defender guy, but Chance McSpadden is kind of like that X-man that if there is someone on the other team going off, Coach Dawkins says that he would bring out Chance McSpadden to guard that guy because he's a defensive-minded player first, but at the same time, he's also able to score the ball. So far, of these 4 new guys, he has the highest scoring average at 13.3 points per game, and is also the only player of these 3 who hasn't started a game, of these 4 rather, who hasn't started a game yet. So all of his production has been off the bench. He's getting about 5 rebounds a game and just over an assist a game as well. He's also taking care of the ball very well at 1.3 turnovers per game too. So It's good to see that. And Cesar DeJesus, Coach Dawkins has talked about him being one of the best guys he's seen finish at the rim. He's up there with anyone pretty much from in Coach Dawkins' eyes, at least. I also saw DeJesus make some really nice pull-up jumpers with a guy right in his face. Just, his hand is right there. Had an and one, I think, against William and Mary, where he had an and one, but the guy just draped all over him. And then, with Deion Griffin, he talked about it at the beginning of the season, how he wanted to emulate basically what Matt Williams did. And through these first 3 games, it's sort of been a little bit difficult for him to kind of get in that groove. I know this past game against William and Mary, he started the first half 0 for 9 from the field and 0 for 6 from the 3-point range. But Coach Dawkins said not worried at all about him doing that, having those kind of performances. He reminded us that, just like Matt Williams, he had those off nights where he couldn't get anything going, and all of a sudden he went off for, 11 for 15 or something against USF, school record, single game record there last year. So, Deion Griffin can be the same way Coach Dawkins thinks. And, of course, we got to mention Terrell Allen because he is now the starting point guard, and that's who Coach Dawkins wants to be, in terms of offensively leading the team. That's who he wants at the top there. Of course, being the point guard. Unfortunate to see him kind of go down in that first game, against William and Mary in those first few minutes. He started off the game making the first field goal attempt of the game. Of both teams, and he's not a guy that usually shoots the ball either. So, it's good to see. It's good to hear that he's going to be back, and especially for this team with so many injuries.
Well, I didn't mention Chance McSpadden because, honestly, I was looking at the stats here on ESPN, and he was not listed with the starters. He was listed as the bench, and I didn't even open that part. I didn't realize that you had to open that part. But he scored the most points and, honestly did a very good job. Why is a guy like that not listed on the starting lineup when he's the guy that goes out there and scores the most?
That's a good question for Coach Dawkins. Maybe we'll ask them at the next practice availability. But from my perspective, I think he provides a good energy off the bench. You obviously have a lot of scorers already in terms of Deion Griffin and Cesar DeJesus, who can kind of do a variety of things. Deion can shoot the perimeter shot well, and then you got Cesar who can drive to the hoop if you need him to. So in Chance McSpadden, I guess you kind of have a scorer who can do a variety of both. Not to say that the other two can't do, the other parts as well, but I feel like Chance McSpadden provides a lot of energy off the bench in terms of scoring and defense, because now you also got you're moving Chad Brown to the starting 5 spot as Taco is kind of nursing that hip still. So I think that'd probably be the main reason.
I had to laugh at Coach Dawkins in the postgame when he said the players are still adjusting to getting the ball to Taco Fall. You would just automatically think, hey, tallest guy, get the ball to him. But as he said, a lot of these guys were, not playing last year, had to sit out, transfer and new guys and all of that. And so actual game opportunities, not practice time, they haven't had an opportunity to really get into a flow and work with him. I thought that was funny. Any update, better information on B.J. Taylor? The talking point was 4 to 6 weeks. Did you have opportunity to talk with him during the week at the media avail?
I have not heard anything in terms of where his status is at. Still 4 to 6 weeks. That puts him actually, at the earliest in terms of if it's 4 weeks. He could come up and play against Southern University in the beginning of December on December 9th, or at the very latest he could play against South Carolina State right before Christmas on December 21st. Or if they're playing cautious, if Coach Dawkins wants to be a little cautious there, it could happen. His return could happen after Christmas on December 27th, which would be the conference opener at SMU. So, I think it'll be a good chance. He has a good chance of coming in at a good time. I think, if he comes back for that South Carolina State game, it'll be a good, refresher game before he gets into conference schedule with the rest of the team. Just to kind of get his feet underneath him again and everything. But, apart from that, I haven't heard anything new.
In our Ask Knightline inbox, Aaron Duck 7 on Twitter asks a basketball question, so I'll throw it at you. What are the chances our men's basketball team makes the NCAA tournament? So let me twist it around a little bit. Are you more or less confident than you were a couple of weeks ago, based on what you've seen, based on the injuries, that this team can make an NCAA tournament run?
3 games in, I have to say it's a little difficult to say. At the same time, you can kind of gather about what kind of team this is. I think that this team, it's still tough to say with BJ, with Taco, everyone healthy. I definitely think it is a tournament team, an NCAA tournament team. But without them, it's tough to say. What the newcomers have shown though is a lot of promise. But I think the game that sticks out to me the most is the Gardner-Webb game. UCF just won by 3 points, and it came down to the wire too, as one of their guys, Liam O'Reilly for Gardner-Webb, scored 3 buckets in a row, a layup, I think 2 free throws actually, and a 3-pointer to pull within 1 point at the very end of the game. And those are the kind of games that Coach Dawkins was saying, we have to figure out how to manage the clock at the end of the game and not let teams get back in the game from a double-digit deficit. The reason why Gardner-Webb sticks out to me, not only because, Gardner-Webb almost came back at the end of the game after UCF was up by 12 or 13 with 5 minutes to go, I think. It's also, it kind of gives a good gauge of, where UCF is compared to some of the other top teams in the country. So Gardner-Webb, before they played UCF, played UF, who was ranked at the time number 8, and Miami, who was ranked at the time number 13. And both those teams blew out Gardner-Webb. And I'm not saying, UCF, you can't compare, UCF to the other schools in Florida right now, but because UCF isn't, fully healthy right now either, but just in kind of comparison to see what Gardner-Webb offered to those top caliber teams and what kind of competition they also showed to UCF. But as the season goes on, like I said, I think it's a matter of just, when BJ gets back, to see how he reintegrates with the team. And then obviously Taco is now back as well, but that'll take some time. And fortunately for UCF, he's going to be here for a majority of the non-conference schedule, barring, any other injury that happens. But, like I said, I think at the end of the day, with Taco, with everyone healthy, you have an NCAA tournament team. And these new guys have shown a lot of promise too. Like we said, Chance McFadden off the bench, 13.3 points per game. Dayon scoring about 12 as well. So, and Chad Brown, I forgot to mention Chad Brown. He's been in terms of numbers wise, it's nothing flashy, but there's a noticeable improvement physically in how he's playing. I know he increases vertical by about 3 inches, gained a good amount of weight, but lost a lot of body fat as well. And he's also shooting, 8 for 10 from the free throw line against Gardner-Webb, I think it was. Before that, he was shooting somewhere around, I think, about 50%. So it's really nice to see those kind of guys improve and hopefully, help this team to the tournament.
All right, well, Victor, thank you again for joining us. How can people find your stuff and all that?
Yeah, you guys can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at New Day Review, or you can also follow my personal account, NDR_Victor Tan. Also, our website is newdayreview.com, and, of course, we are on Facebook, facebook.com/NewDayReview. So give us a follow there. Give us a follow on Instagram and Twitter as well.
All right, man. Thanks for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Thanks again, guys, for having me. I appreciate it.
Time again for Ask Knightline, answering your questions that you provide to us on our Facebook page or via Twitter at #AskKnightline. Now, we sprinkled a lot of these in. We asked Victor one of them during the segment. We asked Nick. We asked Kyle. So we worked a lot of these in, but I don't know that you really commented I know, to this.
Segment.
What do you guys believe is the key to slowing down Quentin Flowers? As you've watched the UCF defense and you watched the Cows game at Tulsa, that's where all eyes are focused. Obviously, they have other weapons and talented players that can beat you. What do you think?
I have watched a lot of their games, actually. I've spent more time this year, I think, watching the opponents, and that's one of the reasons why I've told you that I thought that Houston would beat them. Here's the deal with him. You have to make him throw the ball. He'll beat you with his feet all day long, but I don't think that he can beat you with his arm. I don't think he can beat this team with his arm. I mean, he's efficient, but he's not. When he has to be, I don't think that he is. And it's kind of been, tailoring off here towards the end.
Well, he had a bad game with Tulsa. He had 516 all-purpose yards against UConn a couple weeks back. So
a bad game turns into another bad game when you start to lose your confidence a little bit. And like I've said all along, I've said it more recently, this defense that we have, shock and awe, like I like to call them, showed their true colors this last week and became shock and awe again, because I hadn't been saying that for a couple weeks. But like I've said again, I believe that was playing down to the competition. Nobody's going to play down to this for this game. Nobody. This is the biggest game of the year, and it's one of the biggest games ever for UCF football, and nobody's playing down, and shock and awe will be in full effect.
Let me ask you this question. Nick Patty has referred to this a couple of times in the past, and we didn't ask him this, but this is a little football 101 question for you. Nick has talked about putting a spy on a quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
In particular, he referenced it when we were looking ahead to the Flowers.
There's only one guy.
Explain that a little bit more.
Well, you have a guy that is his sole responsibility is to make sure that quarterback it's his sole responsibility. It's like man on man. And there's only one guy I think that's capable of it on this football team. And that guy, Shaquem Griffin.
Where do I got to get this article out again?
No.
You want me to find
don't.
more quotes?
Seriously, no. Stop with that. But he's the perfect guy. He's got the speed, and he can torment him all day long. But you put a guy, and literally, that guy's job is to contain the quarterback. Either go after him on every play. You can't take a guy completely out of your defense, but you can, play man-to-man on a quarterback as well, just like you do with receivers or whatever. If you have a guy that is just totally going after the quarterback the entire time, and a guy that runs like that, you have to do it. You've seen it with what they've done, what the defenses have done against us. They've had guys that spy Mackenzie Milton. They haven't handled it very well when they do, but there's always a guy. I think one of the biggest games where I noticed that they had a spy on Mackenzie was Maryland, I believe. Even though Mackenzie got free a few times, but I just remember watching that game and seeing this guy is constantly on Mackenzie. Mackenzie is this guy's thing to take care of.
This week's matchup is a battle of the number 1 offense, number 2 defense, that's UCF. And the Cows have the number 2 offense in the league, number 1 defense. So we spent a lot of time talking about Quentin Flowers. UCF has a lot of weapons. They do have a good defense.
They do. And that is the part that kind of worries me a little bit, because their defense, yes, is quite good. But they've lost with that defense as well. And some teams that you didn't think could ever move the ball on them, especially in the beginning of the season, did really move the ball well on them and came very close to handling it a couple times, especially early in the season. Teams that they should have never gotten close to them, so they are beatable, and I think they're going to get beat again, personally. And I think our defense is better than theirs. It may not be by numbers, but by heart and will, I think that it is.
W. Pearl Brock 4 on Twitter. Burning question: why is that university not called West Central Florida University of Raymond James? I found an old SB Nation article which explains why it got the name that it did, and amongst the reasons that it became this is the University of Tampa was already taken. Florida looked a lot different at the time of its origination. It was the southernmost public university, because Miami's a private university. Listen to what one of the names they considered for this school. We should start calling them this.
All right.
I've never heard this one. Sunshine State University.
How
about a little happy sunshine on their helmet?
That'd be awesome. That would be awesome. Oh, boy.
That's an interesting article. All right, thank you, everybody.
They have a U on their helmet anyway, so what are they trying
Hook 'em horns.
Yeah, what are they trying to do?
Charlie Strong must be confused all the time where he is. Austin or Tampa?
Well, yeah, it didn't work out too well there in in Austin for him.
Yeah. UCF fantasy will be very quick here. Seems Knightline's playing for pride. Can't seem to pick the guys on the right weeks. Black and gold banneret edges Knightline. Traquan and Shaquem barely over AK and Jasinski. Now, as we've talked about extensively, knowing Eric Lopez is involved in scorekeeping just makes you wonder how legit all of this is. He knows. He's in the scorekeepers union. Did you know that?
No.
He's got a card. He'll take it out of his wallet. There's a scorekeepers union. He knows all these guys all over the country.
So he's paying somebody off.
No, I'm just...
They're shenanigans.
Shenanigans. We go around the American. And I want to thank Selena. We talked about Selena last week. Was one of our Ask Nightline questions. And she wrote, I listened to the first half of the show on my way to work, and I listened to the last half after. It's my Monday tradition. Thanks. Love the show. Stay with us, Selena and gang. We'll be back before you finish your commute.
I appreciate it. Now time for a look around the American featuring C. Austin Cox.
I'm C. Austin Cox from the AAC Daily on BCSNN, and this is your weekly college football wrap-up for what's happening throughout the American Athletic Conference following Week 12 of the college football season. Following another wild week of college football, the American remains the only league in the nation that has 3 teams with 1 loss or less. Leading the way is UCF thanks to a perfect 10-0 record, making the Knights one of only 4 undefeated teams in the nation, joining other power conference programs like Alabama, Miami of Florida, and Wisconsin, while the USF Bulls and Memphis Tigers each sit at 9-1. We also now know at least one team that will appear in the 2017 American Athletic Conference Football Championship, with the number 17 Memphis Tigers winning the AAC West after topping SMU 66-45 in Week 12. Memphis and the rest of the American will find out who wins the AAC West and who will face the Tigers in the championship when number 13 UCF plays host to number 22 USF on Black Friday in Orlando for the annual War on I-4 trophy. UCF is 7-0 in conference play while USF sits at 6-1. If the Bulls win, it would create a tie atop the East standings and give USF the head-to-head tiebreaker. The Knights reached 10-0 by dominating Temple 45-19 in Philadelphia. UCF quarterback Mackenzie Milton threw for 208 yards and 4 touchdowns and added another TD on the ground, while linebacker Shaquem Griffin forced a fumble and an interception on the defensive side of things. USF was able to hold off Tulsa for a 27-20 victory at Raymond James Stadium, with Quentin Flowers throwing for 142 yards and 2 touchdowns. The win was hard-fought as the Bulls had to hold off Tulsa's late drive attempt, which ended on the USF 30-yard line. Tulane is still in the hunt for bowl eligibility after the Green Wave shocked the Houston Cougars 20-17 to improve to 5-6 overall. Jonathan Banks threw for a career-high 251 yards and rushed for another 68 on the ground in the win. If Tulane can top SMU in Week 13, the Green Wave will gain bowl eligibility for just the first time since 2013. Pirates fans saw the East Carolina offense come alive in Week 12 as ECU had its best performance of the year, beating Cincinnati 48-20 in an AAC East Division matchup. Wide receiver Trayvon Brown set the American single-game record for receiving yards as he had 9 catches for 270 yards and 2 touchdowns, including his second 95-yard touchdown catch of the season. Quarterback Gardner Minshew threw for 444 yards and 4 TDs as the Pirates rolled over the Bearcats. 2 teams from the American stepped out of conference play on Saturday, and neither managed to escape with a win as Navy kept number 9 Notre Dame locked in a 17-17 slugfest before the Fighting Irish were able to beat the Mids 24-17. On the other side of things, UConn jumped out to an early lead over Boston College at Fenway Park, but the Eagles rallied and would eventually run away with a win 39-16 over the Huskies. I'm C. Austin Cox, and that's what's happening around the American Athletic Conference following Week 12 of the college football season. For more news about the American, you can catch me on the AAC Daily, airing Monday through Friday, starting at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, noon Central on BCSNN, iTunes, Spreaker, and the iHeartRadio app every weekday. Now back to Orlando with your host, Andrew Phegley and Trace Trylko on UCF Knightline.
You know who else is on the iHeartRadio app?
We are.
There you go.
We are now. All right, so Knights in the pros. Minnesota's Latavius Murray with 15 carries for 95 yards and 2 touchdowns. You know, that guy works very hard wherever he goes, and, you know, he kind of gets the bad end of the stick sometimes, but, man, I really appreciate the way that he hangs in there. Totally. Good guy. Jacksonville's Blake Bortles, another good guy. 17 of 30 for 154 yards and a touchdown. The Jags are now alone in first place in the AFC South at 7-3.
Who'd have thunk it?
Yep. Detroit's Matt Prater with a game-winning 52-yard field goal as the Detroit Lions beat the Chicago Bears 27-24. And one that's not on here, Shaquille Griffin will be playing on Monday Night Football this week against, I don't remember who, but anyway, you can catch him on Monday Night Football starting for the Seattle Seahawks.
More from the Sports Illustrated article. Speaking of that,
man.
When the twins were in middle school, they made a promise to each other. When it was time for college, I didn't know this at all, they would stick together. Most schools wanted Shaquille. His first scholarship offer, do you know this? Who did his first scholarship offer come from?
Probably Alabama or something crazy like that.
Sunshine State University over there.
Really? Well, they're from...
Yeah, they're from St. Pete.
Yeah.
But the Cows didn't immediately... I'm adding words here. This is not actually the Sports Illustrated. But the Cows didn't immediately offer one to Shaquille. So the brothers went to a camp in Tampa. When they arrived, Shaquille decided to sit out. He wanted the coaches focusing only on Shaquille. After Shaquille made plays all over the field at safety, coaches offered him a scholarship. He declined. They hadn't respected him enough to offer what they had offered Shaquille, but not him. You're not saying I'm not mentally capable, Shaquille says. You're not saying I'm not fast enough. You're not saying that I'm not strong enough. The only reason you're saying I can't do something is because I have one hand.
Mm-hmm.
How about that? Told him to blow it out their Sunshine State University here. That's what they did there.
Well, he told that to a lot of teams, and there were a lot of Power 5 teams that offered him as well, big ones. And he said he wasn't going to go anywhere, and that's how he wound up here. O'Leary
Sorta did.
Did.
Offered,
bite
but
on
didn't
it
play him.
because he knew he was going to get Shaquille.
Yeah.
But, yeah, that is brotherly love right
How about
there.
that story? Okay,
That's
I'll stop. I'll
unbelievable.
stop reading this article now.
You know
Planner.
why that is, though? Do you know why those two guys are what they are? Because of their parents.
There you go. Big Tailgate Friday.
Absolutely.
Knightline Planner taking a look at the week ahead. Women's basketball home November 22, 2 o'clock against Elon. Then the 25th at 7:30, they're back home as well. Volleyball also home on the 22nd. Cows mosey into town, 7 p.m. at the venue. UCF heads to Tampa on the 25th. Lots of war on I-4 rivalry points up for grabs. And men's basketball plays Friday and Sunday. Those times, it just depends on all the other action in that tournament out at the Mouse House.
You know what? I implore everybody, actually, to come by our tailgate. I tailgate with the Griffins. You should meet Tangi and Terry Griffin. And we're right in the D2 lot, right up against the D garage.
All the player families are
it's
over
a lot
there.
Of player
Kyle Gibson's
families.
family's over there, and Kalubiali.
Yep.
Hey, I got it.
You got it. Yeah,
Coobs.
all of them are there. And this is Kalubiali's last one, I believe.
Yep.
And it's the Griffins' last one. So come by there and say hi to those guys and let all of them know how much it's meant to have their kids here. Do it, please. Come say hi to me, and that would be awesome.
Yeah, need directions, just message us in Twitter. And
Yeah.
you're over by D? Is that
D,
where you are?
in the D2 surface lot between the C and D garages, right up against the D garage.
Is the missus making her dessert?
Something. She'll be making something. I don't know.
That was good.
There's a lot of things good that she makes. We have a heck of a tailgate over there. I'm not saying that nobody has a better tailgate, but ours is pretty intense. And this is the last one after 5 years
No,
of
it's not.
tailgating together.
No, it's not.
Well, that's true.
Stop it.
We could have
Yes, we can.
a championship game.
Do I got
here.
to find a Shaquille quote? in
No,
here?
stop. Seriously. This is, it's rough on me this week. It's crazy. Whatever. Anyway, time for news and notes. And now, news and notes from the world of UCF sports. Volleyball beats UConn Sunday, swept Temple Friday. UCF is 10-8 in the American, 17-13 overall.
Women's basketball loses at Virginia Tech Sunday 86-69. Knights crush Gardner Webb Friday.
Do we need to start over, Trace?
No, we'll keep going. 65-30, UCF 2-2.
Right, well, this one's not going to end well, I can tell you that. Women's tennis adds number one ranked junior in Croatia. The number one ranked junior in Croatia. Welcome to Dominika Travokic to UCF. I think that sounds all right.
Men's tennis.
Dominika
Turkovic.
Turkovic. Yeah, Turkovic, Travokic, whatever.
Men's tennis welcomes one of the top juniors in the country as Trey Hillebrand thanks his national letter of intent.
Men's golf welcomes a pair. Oh, boy. Pedro Lencart Silva out of Portugal and Clement Carmesson out of France to the letters of intent. This is great.
Women's golf welcomes Elizabeth Moon to a letter of intent.
Lord have
Moon
mercy.
out of Arkansas is the number 9 recruit in the class of 2018.
Guys, see
this
what
is
he
torture.
does to me? See what
I'm
he
reading
does?
quotes from the SI article. I gave you all the hard names.
See what, when Troy was on here back in the day, he used to give me trouble about how old I am, and now you make me cry, and it wasn't nearly as bad. Anyway, and finally, in case you didn't know, it is Beat the Week.
Kevin Reese.
Yep. Lots of war on I-4 rivalry. Points up for grabs. The trophy gets awarded to the winner of the football game, and volleyball has a home and home with the Bovines. Not only do we have cows, but we have turkeys on this show.
We talked about owls, turkeys, cows. Happy Thanksgiving,
boy.
Everybody.
Happy Thanksgiving, and we are thankful for the people that listen to the show because we wouldn't do it otherwise. If there was nobody listening, trust us, we would not spend probably 80 hours out of a week putting this stuff together because it is absolutely a full-time job. All right, I'm Andrew Phegley.
I'm Trace Trylko. Gobble, gobble, go Knights.
Charge on. We'll see you out there Friday. Looking forward to it.
With our spirits, we'll never yield. Black